Hi, everybody, and welcome to our day one recap show as we take a look back at the opening day of competition at the North America West semifinal. We are in the bowels of the Pasadena Convention Center here in Pasadena, California. The teams kick things off today with two separate. Let's take a look at the details here on the North America West semifinal. We're going to send 9 men and 10 women, 19 individuals total, to the CrossFit Games. They will kick off action on Friday, and then 10 teams will advance from Pasadena to the 2023 Noble CrossFit Games. Let's bring in the other two members of the crew here, Lauren Khalil and Tommy Marquez. 2 tests today for the teams, and really, I don't think anything out of the ordinary happened today, guys. Lauren, we'll start with you. What did you think about day one?
Oh, day one was great. It is so much fun to be back in live action and a little bit of a race in that final test for today. But overall, what a great way to kick off North America West.
Yeah, just like there was no surprises last night when I beat you both at a local affiliate, Crown City, during their 7 p.m. class. Everything went to plan as far as I expected with the results from the team competition today.
Let's take a look at the highlights from the first 2 tests. CrossFit Invictus, the team of Jorge Fernandez, Devin Kim, Brittany Weiss, and Joshua Alchama, finished 3rd last year at the CrossFit Games, looking to get themselves on top of the podium this year. They had a super strong start. They were never really challenged in the final heat of test number 1. Fernandez gutting through that final sandbag hold, and when they got to the worm, there was no doubt here. Final set of 10 worm clean and jerks, and CrossFit Invictus, one of 3 Invictus teams on the floor in this final heat, they wind up getting the test win with a time of 20:27.07 seconds. Franco's Misfits would take second with a time of 20:52.47. We move into test number 2, and that's where Franco's Misfits, they were out front pretty much the entire time. There was a good battle for second place going on behind them, but Brandon Luckett and Alexis Johnson were paired up. Logan Collins and Shaylin Laurie, they were all very efficient through this entire test, getting into the round of 13 muscle ups and 30 thrusters. Collins and Laurie were able to get through the entirety of that round, and they would get the score to beat 265 reps. They were just 4 reps shy of the top score that we saw from AB CrossFit Mayhem last week. So, biggest takeaways from day number 1, guys. Lauren, we'll start with you. Franco's Misfits come in, maybe not the team that everybody expected to win this whole thing, but a first and a second. They sit atop the overall standings after day 1.
Yeah, Sean, and heading into the semifinals, they were 9 points below Invictus after quarterfinals. So everybody was always talking about Invictus. They took the win in the first event, but Franco's Misfits were close behind, and watching the battle of them hang on in that second test today. When I spoke to them after this event, they said it really came down to who could hurt more, and your strategy and game plan went a little bit out the window, and you just had to watch your competitors. They would take a break. Invictus would take a break. But who ultimately wanted to hurt more? And for this one, I think it was Franco's Misfits. And, it just showed how powerful that they are going to be throughout the rest of the weekend.
And Tommy, let's talk about CrossFit Invictus. As I mentioned, they got 3 teams that had a realistic chance, of going to the CrossFit Games. With Invictus, the team that finished 3rd at the CrossFit Games last year, even though they are not in first place, they're only 3 points back, but they are as advertised.
Yeah, and real quick, a note: 3 Invictus teams in the top 12 right now, so all 3 very much in the hunt. And let's remember, for CrossFit Invictus, this same exact thing as far as finishing happened to the Proven Fitness team last week. Proven came out, they won the very first test, then they had a 3rd place finish to close out day number 1. They were in a close race with a very deep field. Here we get to see the same thing with a Franco's Misfits team pushing this Invictus team. Anyone who thought this was just going to be a cakewalk for any of these teams, you see Jorge really gritting through those sandbags. They were going to be mistaken. They're going to get it pushed every single event, but as the team competition wears on, we see more elements of synchronized movements. We get to see the relay race that shows up tomorrow on an individual level. We'll get to see this Invictus team really lean behind the teamwork and talent that got them to the podium last year, and I think they'll be just fine.
The individuals will kick off tomorrow, so we'll have the individuals and teams on the floor on Friday. Let's talk about storylines that we'll be watching. Lauren, we'll start with you and the women. Who's someone you're paying attention to as the individuals start their 3 days of competition here in Pasadena?
Well, I think this part of the competition is so interesting because you have so many women that are going to be fighting at the cut line. Somebody that I'm keeping my eye on is going to be Olivia Kerstetter. We've seen her absolutely dominate the teen division, but now the question is she ready and is she going to qualify as an elite individual? We saw her against some of these strong athletes at the Rogue Invitational where she fared well right in the middle. And now it's going to come down to, will this be the year that she punches her ticket, or she has already accepted her invite as a teen individual? So regardless, we know we're going to see her at the CrossFit Games. It just comes down to which division that will be.
And Tommy, on the men's side, I mean, you talk about Justin Medeiros is here, Pat Vellner is here, Brent Fikowski is here, Chandler Smith, Cole Sager. Once again, Sam Quant is, I don't want to say getting overlooked, but may not be the guy that people are talking about right off the bat. But you should definitely be paying attention to him here as the men start competition on Friday.
No doubt, because realistically, Sam Quant is the second highest finisher that's still left to compete from the CrossFit Games outside of Justin Medeiros. You take Ricky Garrard out of the equation, he slots into that next podium position. We got to see Roman Krenikov go last week. You mentioned all those big names. Well, Sam beat all of them at the Games last year. But honestly, I think he's just fine laying right in the middle, laying low from event to event. And I think tomorrow in particular, with the long endurance type test with the machine, something he excels at, and then a very tricky, complex gymnastics movement, something that not a lot of people will try. This seems like a great opportunity for Sam just to rack up top 4, top 5, maybe 7th, 8th here or there. And what we saw last week in semifinals, that was more than enough to put people towards the top of the leaderboard overall.
North America West is just one of 3 semifinals going on this weekend. The Torian Pro is just getting started down under. They are going to send 3 men, 3 women, and 3 teams to compete at the 2023 Noble CrossFit Games. And the mayor of Australian CrossFit, Jeremy Austin, is one of the men calling the action down there. And before he got himself on the mic, he told us what storylines he will be watching as day 1 kicks off of the Torian Pro.
Cheers, Sean, and final preparations happening right behind me here at Pat Rafter Arena with competition less than 24 hours away and things getting pretty exciting. And an interesting week in the Oceania region as well, with withdrawals, sickness, family holidays, and a massive influx of Kiwis heading over from New Zealand in huge numbers. Starting with the team division and Torian Mayhem separating a little bit this week. Royce Dunn feeling a little bit under the weather and having some time off, and Brandon Swan taking wife Kel and son Nate to the centre of Australia to Uluru for some downtime before the big event this weekend. The 6'4 Army are here as well in big numbers, and speaking to Coach Cromie Mitchell yesterday, they are very competitive with last week's results in the North American East region, and they are ready to challenge Torian Mayhem for that top spot this weekend. In the men's division, very unfortunate, but the withdrawal of Zeke Grove will overshadow things a little, but will spice things up a little bit more. And those 3 spots really could go to anybody. Prince of the Pacific, Jay Crouch, is ready to go back-to-back Torian Pro titles, but tough competition from Jake Douglas, who should do very well on test 1 with a heavy sled pull, and he's been running a lot, so test 4 and 5 should suit him as well. Bailey Martin, Will Carney, and possibly Pete Ellis for a chance, but do not overlook James Newbury, who could head back to the CrossFit Games for his 5th appearance. And look out for him in test number 7. He is going to send it. For the women, we're going to have a past Games competitor heading to Madison. But of the 5 we have, who's it going to be? It's going to be tough to pick. Youngsters coming through like Georgia Pryor, Emily DeRoy, Bryony Chalice will challenge the likes of Jamie Simmons, Ellie Turner, Maddie Sturt, Laura Clifton, and Caitlin Van Ziel for one of those 3 top spots. Not sure how things are going to pan out here, but one hell of an exciting weekend coming up, and can't wait to find out who is going to be representing the Oceania region at the CrossFit Games this year. Sean, back to you.
Thanks a lot, Jeremy. Really looking forward to watching all the action at the Torian Pro. Other semifinal going on is in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. It is Copa Sur, and they're going to send 2 women, 2 men, and 2 teams on to the 2023 Noble CrossFit Games. And Tommy, we will start on the men's side here because I think one of those spots is pretty well locked up. It's, Guy Maieros. It's hard to imagine that he's not going to win the whole thing down there.
Yeah, you go back to last season and how he showed a great improvement in dominating his semifinal. Because remember, he actually lost his semifinal in 2021 despite still qualifying. He won by over 100 points over the next qualifier, Augustin Riquelme. But Day one is actually interesting for Guy. You look at the very first test online, a ton of machine work, a long endurance test, something he typically struggles at. It's an opportunity for him to showcase some of the work that he's been putting in with that Mayhem crew. And then at test number 2, you look at the high skill gymnastics movement. That's something that Augustin Raquelme is going to love. So there's going to be an opportunity for some of the athletes maybe hoping to knock off Guy, or at least put some pressure on him to start the weekend off, to be able to do so on day number 1.
And Lauren, on the women's side, maybe a little more competitive than the men's side is going to be for both of those spots.
Yeah, there's actually 4 women that I think we should be paying attention to. There's Victoria Campos, Julia Cato, Sasha Nievas, and Luisa Marquez. Now, I want to start with Campos and Cato because I think they have the best shot strictly based on the data that we have of them, and specifically based on them both qualifying as individuals for the CrossFit Games last year. Campos finishing 33rd with the best finish 14th. Cato 37th, right behind her, and her best finish was 13th. But Sasha Nievas, I think that she's interesting because although she went team last year with Mayhem, we can't forget that she qualified as an individual back in 2021 at 31st. So a couple of women in the mix. I think that is going to be tough when it comes to just 2 spots that these 4 women need to earn.
Should be a lot of fun to watch all the competition going on this weekend. And of course, week number 3, we have 2 final semifinals, and then the entire field for the 2023 Noble CrossFit Games will be set. But still plenty of action to go before we get to week number 3. So here's what's on tap for tomorrow in North America West and in the Torian Pro and Copa Sur. So North America West, you have Team Test 3 and Team Test 4, and then the first 2 tests for the individuals. And then at the Torian Pro and Copa Sur, first 2 tests for the teams and for the individuals. We are going to have a wrap-up show of all the action every night here from Pasadena, and we will be checking in with Australia and down in Rio de Janeiro for what's going on with Copa Sur. We're also going to have plenty of coverage throughout every day on our Instagram page. So if you haven't followed us on Instagram, be sure you do that. A lot to talk about over these next 3 days. I want to thank Lauren Khalil for joining us and Tommy Marquez. Thank you guys for watching. A lot more to come this weekend. Have a great time checking out all the action. I'm Sean Woodland. Appreciate you taking the time to check this out, and we will talk to you tomorrow.